What do you get when you combine simplified practice marketing, proven ROI strategy, and Van skate shoes? You get Mark Thackeray, of course. So lace up, grab your green smoothie, and get ready, because this is Dental Marketing Secrets. And this is Mark.
All right, welcome back, my friends, to another episode of the Dental Marketing Secrets podcast, where we provide actionable tips and tricks that you can take and apply immediately to grow your practice, to serve more patients, and also leave a greater impact on the community at large. And that's really what it's all about. My name is Mark Thackeray, and I am excited to be here today. I have a very special guest with me. His name is Vince Dilley, and Vince is the CEO and founder of Platinum Dental. He's also the owner of Platinum Recall. He has 3 kids, and he's just a cool guy. You know, I mean, we've been talking a little bit right now, and we're talking about some skiing, some getting some time up on the mountain, some heli skiing as well. So we're excited to have Vince. We're going to talk about his journey into dental, into acquiring practices, and also ultimately scaling and growing to over 20 practices at this point, 2020. So very excited to have him on here. Vince, welcome to the show.
Mark, thanks for having me, man.
You bet. So I assume you live in Park City. So do you ride mostly in Park City, or do you ski or snowboard?
Ski and snowboard. Yeah, I grew up snowboarding. So usually do Park City. We'll do a dentist trip once a year. So we usually do Jackson. We actually did Breckenridge this year. So
very cool.
Try to get a little bit. I haven't had too many days on the mountain this year, unfortunately.
Shoot, man.
Too busy.
That. Yeah, definitely have to change that. Well, that's cool. Well, thanks again for coming on the show, man. We're super excited. I've got a couple of questions I wanted to fire at you and just get your take on a few things as well. So let's start. Let's talk about the journey, because let's rewind a little bit. So 2010, you're looking at this Platinum Recall, what is Platinum Recall for those that don't know?
Yeah, so Platinum Recall, it was just a business that did patient reactivations for dental offices. So, the patients who were supposed to be coming in every 6 months for their cleanings, we call and reactivate their overdue hygiene patients on behalf of the dentist. It was kind of a subscription service. We still run that business. We still have clients where we do that for. And so my sister actually started the company.
Okay.
So she started it and then sold it to an investor. And then I was trying to figure out what I was doing, a transition from a sales job. And anyway, he asked me if I wanted to buy it. And I was like, dude, I got like $2,500 in my bank account.
Right.
Like how do you want me to buy this thing? So he had lost about half the clients. So he was a capital preservation move for him. He says, hey, give me the $2,500 and I'll own or finance it to you if you pay me what I paid for it. And so, looked at my new baby and my wife and said, let's roll the dice and go. And that's what we did. Yeah.
So no prior business owner experience.
No, didn't have. I mean, I had started like this consulting business for like a door-to-door sales company and stuff. And so like little, but not, it was very, me service based. We didn't have any employees or anything like that. So it was a new journey. And then we built that company up. And then, from 2010 to 2012, I was, kind of figuring out the business a little bit. And then bought my first dental office in 2012.
That's awesome. So did you have that idea in your head that you were going to go and acquire a dental practice, once you acquired Platinum Recall?
It definitely wasn't from the outset, right?
Yeah.
We had a little call center, and so we were, in these doctors' schedules, and I could see, a lot of these doctors weren't that busy, and I was like, they got to be able to, be making more money than this, right? Doing better than this. And so, no, it was just kind of I didn't realize the DSO space and the group dentistry space was emerging at the time. And, it was just kind of a one-off venture where I was like, I'm going to try my hands at a dental office. And I had squirreled away about $20,000 in silver coins actually at the time. And so got in my crawl space, cashed out my silver coins at a coin shop for $20,000 and put that as a down payment on my first dental practice. So basically that was kind of the strategy, was finding struggling practices that had overdue hygiene patients and then buying those practices and then plugging them into the recall business to reactivate them. And so the doc I bought it from, I think he sold it to me for $180,000, $20,000 down, and then he owner financed it 5.5% interest over 5 years. And that's kind of how I squeezed my way into a dental practice.
Nice. Nice. So you recognize that if you could get this up and rolling with your system that you already had proven, then it wouldn't be as overwhelming, right? I mean, you kind of recognize this practice was suboptimal in terms of their patient flow, and you'd already cracked that nut, so to speak.
Yeah, in terms of the patient reactivation, for sure. I won't pretend at all like I knew what I was doing, because like for the first 6 months in, I was just like, what have I done? I just like I wasn't making any money. I didn't know anything about insurance credentialing, so I wasn't getting paid from my insurance companies. And it was just I mean, it was kind of a disaster, honestly. 6 months in, I was like, man, kind of rethinking it. But, we figured out, the businesses and the systems. We knew how to get new patients into the practice. So that was helpful. But, about a year in, we started to turn a profit. And I was like, okay, we can do this again.
Yeah. And how was your wife feeling about this at that time?
She was all in. She deserves a lot of praises. She's for sure the unsung hero, right? In any story of success that we achieve. But she was great. I mean, I was working a lot of hours just trying to, when you're in survival mode, startup mode, it's we, to this day, we haven't taken private equity money. We haven't taken venture capital money. Like, it's been bootstrapped. So cool. And so, with that comes some grit and some grind. So we learned together how to do that early on.
Yeah. Yeah. So talk to me too about how was it going into a practice, how was the feedback from the team? You had no clinical experience, right, in the practice. So going in there and then trying to navigate or lead the ship, talk to me about that.
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely, I think, pretty unique in the DSO space in that regard. The typical DSO kind of goes out, buys up a few practices, and then they start thinking about, okay, what do we centralize, right? Do we get a call center? Do we centralize revenue cycle? What do we do? And, I had a call center before I ever had a dental office. So I was coming in from a little bit different perspective. But when I first started, I stepped in as the office manager. I was sucking spit. I was taking x-rays. I was doing whatever I could, that the practice needed. But it was a challenge for sure. I couldn't keep an office manager around. The doc I bought it from was very particular. He dropped the F-bomb in front of patients. And, so I went through 3 office managers in the first 6-9 months. And so I was the office manager heavily for that during that time. And finally, I just realized, hey, it's not going to work out with this doc. Once I brought a different doc in, changed the game, right? Brought a doc in who was, motivated and eager and, kind. And it worked out really well.
So how long did it take for you to recognize that it was the doctor?
It was it was probably about 9 months. So we were growing the practice despite all those challenges. We were still growing the practice because we were reactivating a ton of patients. Right. We were bringing new patients in. And so just by that, we were lifting the practice. And he was actually a really, really good clinician.
Yeah.
The chair side wasn't there, right? The chair side manner. So, so it was probably about 9 months in when I brought another doc in, and then we quickly kind of moved to profitability. Like I said, around 12 months, and then I bought a second practice that was in bankruptcy, almost right at a year after I bought the first one.
Okay. And so, at what point too did you recognize, or did you have that desire to grow or acquire another practice? Was it just because it was opportunistic, or was that kind of the game plan? Once you got into one, your long-term was going to be multiple. Yeah. Did you always know that?
Well, I talked to some guys who were at HBS during that first year, right? And they were actually studying the consolidation of the dental industry. So after I was talking to these guys, I was like, oh, maybe there's something bigger here. Obviously, I had to lean on people a lot smarter than myself, right? I was like, these guys are talking to me about this consolidation. I was like, oh, maybe this is a thing, right?
Yeah.
I do remember calling Henry Schein and saying, hey, I want to negotiate my prices with you guys. And they're like, okay, great. How many practices do you have? I was like, well, I have one. And they basically and nicely told me, call me when you've got a few more, right? We'll happily take your business, but we're not going to negotiate much. So I knew that there was, economies of scale there if we added more locations. The trick was, again, financing these new deals with basically no money. That was the challenge.
Yeah. Oh, man. That's crazy. That is crazy. Talk to me too about, so you're coming into this whole industry from a different perspective, like you talked about. You had the recall reactivation system already lined up, the call center. And what was it? I mean, how did that change, or how did that influence your vision of what a dental practice could be? Because I think a lot of people, a lot of doctors, a lot of practice owners are a little resistant to it, because they're resistant to change. They kind of have this idea of what a dental practice is, how it runs, how it operates, the day-to-day structure. But you're coming in with a different perspective. How was that? What did that look like, or how did that affect your vision for the practice? And then how did that mesh with the team on board, and getting that, I guess, articulating that vision to the team so that they could buy in as well?
Yeah. I would say that we're even still evolving in that regard as far as how we go into an office. Yeah. And I think that's changed as we've started to identify different types of practices. So when we went into a struggling practice, the building's on fire, right? So it's just we need to change stuff immediately. We don't have the luxury of waiting and making everybody feel comfortable with the changes. Right. It's this is what's going to change, jump on board. As we started buying healthier practices, we've wanted to preserve the team members there as much as possible. So we've gone in a little bit softer. And to be honest with you, it hasn't gone as well for us. So I think, we've definitely started to go into, hey, look, this is the recipe. This is what works. This is what we're going to do. And, some people get on board with that. Some people don't. And it's a challenge for change management is tough in any industry. But where they've had such close relationships with the decision maker, the doctor, to have somebody else come in who's not that person is definitely a challenge for sure. So it's an adjustment, but if the doctor's happy, then the staff's typically happy. Yeah. Right. So that's really what we aim for, is to support the dentists.
That's cool. And how has it been in terms of trying to recruit team members, specifically doctors, providers, hygienists? How has it been their reaction to someone like you who's running the show? When they understand that, how do they feel? Yeah. I mean, it's got to be a little
definitely different.
Surprising for some.
Yeah, for sure. Like, especially I walk in looking the way I look, but when I first started, it was maybe a little bit more challenging than it is now, because I was kind of selling this vision, right? I was just like, we can do this, we can do that, and I mean, between you and I was like, I didn't know if I could actually do that. Yeah. Like I was putting myself out there, like we can make it happen. It's a lot easier now, because I'd say, look, I mean, you can take my word for it, but call Dr. So-and-so and Dr. So-and-so, like call these 10 doctors, and these doctors who we bought their practice when they were doing 300,000, now they're doing 2 or 3 million. Right. Like call them and talk to them, because and so they kind of sell the story for me in terms of the opportunity. But I think it's different, when you're a dentist and you're struggling and you're tired of the business, but you're also not making any money. Like, what are your options? I think they're a lot more open when it's like, hey, like, I just need some help.
Right. So that makes total sense. So, those dentists that you're looking at now, they're generally, you said you're looking at more healthier practices generally. I mean, but I'm sure you're open to any opportunity. Is it easier to work with? I mean, it seems like those in that, like you were talking about before, those that are struggling financially, those that aren't making what they thought they were going to make, or it's just not the lifestyle they were hoping for. It's probably a lot easier to have that conversation. So how does that look when you're approaching a healthy practice? Is it a substantially different conversation?
It's a good question. It's different in the sense of, I guess it's the same in terms of the opportunity, because I can take $1 million office. For example, in Colorado Springs last year, we bought a practice. It was doing $1.2 million. It had 2 dentists in it. Fast forward to, so I bought it in May of 2018, actually. In the year of 2019, I think we did $2.3 million. Nice. And we're on track to do almost $3 million this year. It's still a 2 general dentist practice. The only thing we did is we brought in an oral surgeon, we brought in a periodontist and an endodontist. And so for a doctor who's running a decent practice at about $1 million, the opportunity is the same. In fact, it's actually a faster result, because there's so much there. There's so many patients. We can bring in other specialties. And so it's the value proposition's very much the same, right? Like, hey, be a part of something bigger, something that grows with support, focus on your clinical work. And so it's very much the same. I would only say I wouldn't have been able to deliver that to a healthy practice 5 years ago. Yeah. Because I didn't have specialists. Our support platform wasn't there. And now with our support platform, it's very much the same conversation. We can just deliver different value.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. So, talk to me about that too. I mean, just in general, like, how do you combat that, the negative perception of DSOs in this space? I mean, there's a lot of people out there that they just ramrod on, they get so fired up when they talk about a DSO, right? Or especially working for a DSO, like, forget about it. Yeah. I mean, how do you combat that perception? Yeah, you talked a little bit about it because you have the doctors kind of speak for themselves, but for other team members that maybe aren't a provider,
Yeah, I think first that's changing. I mean, there's still heavy negative connotation around group dentistry and DSOs. Yeah. I don't think it speaks too highly as to the education of the person that because they're talking about, all DSOs are this. Sure. Well, I mean, that's like me saying, all dentists are that, right? And it's just like, that's just not reality, unfounded. Right? Yeah. So, so for me, I take it with a little bit of grain of salt. I certainly don't take it personally, but, for the big part is like, it really comes down to what the doc wants. I mean, if you're entrepreneurial and you want to, get out there and grow some practices and be, or even grow one practice and be this big entrepreneurial dentist, like, you might do way better than in a DSO, right? Like if you've got that in you, I wouldn't say most dentists do. The other thing is I say, okay, well, that's great for today, where dentistry is today. But I always teach our teams, like, we need to skate to where the puck's going, not where it is. Right. Right. And where the dentistry is going and where the DSO space is going, nobody's going to sit there and say it's not moving towards group dentistry. I think everybody knows that that's where it's going. Walmart just opened their two locations, Calhoun, Georgia, and Dallas, Georgia, and
Walgreens and
Walgreens. I mean, CVS is in with Smile Direct Club, and they own it. I believe Aetna Insurance now, and so I mean. The question is, where is it going to be 10, 15, 20 years? If you're going to be in the industry that long, you have to ask yourself the question, where is the industry going? And, how am I going to fit into that? So for me, I try to educate. And if the doctor is very entrepreneurial, I mean, I flat out told docs, hey, look, like I'd go do your own thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? I've had doctors of ours come to me and say, hey, I think I want to try my own thing. And I encourage them. I'm like, hey, I don't want you here thinking the grass is greener. Like I'll support you. I've looked at deals. I've helped doctors, find deals to go buy. And I think it really comes down to the individual. Like, what is it that they want out of it? But the economics kind of speak for themselves. The doctors I've partnered with were making far less money when I met them than they're making now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And the work-life balance and the support and
I know
the equity
that's
growth
such a
of the
key
practice.
component, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that work-life balance.
Yeah, there's usually 3 things I ask a doc, like, how much money do you want to make? What's your work-life balance and what kind of dentistry do you want to practice? Because if you can achieve those 3 things, you're pretty happy, right?
Yeah, generally.
But I know docs who make a lot of money and don't have the work-life balance, and I know other docs who, have the work-life balance and don't make the money they want, right? So striking that balance and figuring it out, I think is the key.
Yeah, totally. So fast forward a little bit, 2020, 20 practices, right? So how has your role evolved? I mean, you talked about having that first practice and how you were just hands-on, do whatever you needed to get done. And that's, when you're bootstrapping, that's what you got to do, right? But now that you just can't do it all by yourself.
Yeah.
So what does your role look like today?
Yeah, it's it evolves a lot, right? So we still have things that we're trying to fine tune. We just centralized revenue cycle management about 1.5 years ago. So we've gone through some ups and downs through that. So I've been hands on there in really developing the systems of the platform, right?
Okay.
In making sure that we can scale and scale well. So that's how a lot of my time's been spent. But we've had new roles. I've had to replace myself. So for the longest time, I was the only one recruiting doctors, for example, right? Now we've got an awesome guy who's leading up, talent acquisition with doctors, and then evolving new systems, right? Introducing integrated specialty, building out offices. Most of the time, we run offices with, the average office of ours has 9 chairs. We're expanding some right now. After that, the average practice will have 11 chairs. It's hard to find an 11-chair practice. We're an acquisitive based, DSO. We buy our practices, and so it's hard to find practices with that size. And so oftentimes we're buying them with 4 or 5 operatories, growing them, and then we build them out or move them. And so there's a lot of stuff like that on business development. Right now, I've really tried to position myself to where over the next couple of years, I can focus mostly on business development and acquisitions partnerships. Okay. How do we acquire more practices? So spend a lot of time in Colorado and Utah, flying back and forth, talking to doctors who are interested in selling and partnering, and that's most of what I do now.
Nice. Are there quite a few doctors out there that are listening now? I mean, they're starting to see the writing on the walls in terms of where dentistry is going, and they're starting to perk up a little bit more than they used to be.
Yeah, I think I don't know that it's as much the embrace of the DSO idea as it is the embrace of the idea of not having to do it all alone.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I think doctors who've ran their own practice knows, it's not a lemonade stand.
Yeah,
like, it's a tough business.
A lot more than they thought.
Yeah. The HR, everything, right? And as it becomes more and more competitive, and you need to have a better and better marketing acumen, right? I think that's why dentists, reaching out to get guys like you and leaning on somebody, an agency that can help support them is key if you're going to be doing your own thing, because you can't be the master of everything, right?
Right.
So I think that's more of where that conversation is like, hey, I want to have this conversation because I can't keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right. Whether you're doing $1 million a year, whether you're doing 500,000 or 2 million a year, I think a lot of docs get to that point. Not all of them, but a lot of docs get to that point, and I think they embrace the idea because they're tired of doing what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And how hard? Well, let me jump back a little bit. How hard was it for you to change your role? Because a lot of times you get comfortable and you're like, no, this is what I do. I'm fine where I'm at, but recognizing that in order to grow, you needed to change.
Yeah.
How difficult was that for you?
My leadership is definitely different. That's hard. That's not easy, right? Because it's this constant, introspection. You're looking at yourself under the microscope. Like, what are you good at? What are you not good at? Again, living and dying by the bottom line versus having like a big private equity group or venture capitalist behind you. Like you can kind of fly under the radar for a little bit, right? But like not when you're bootstrapped like that. So for us, for me, it's been very much just learning it the hard way. Things aren't going super well. I have to do it myself and change it. But my leadership style has changed a lot in that sense. Getting trusting with other people doing things rather than having to do everything yourself. You've got to let, but I'll be honest, like I don't feel like I executed super well for quite a few years. And even now, I think there's things we can execute better on. So we read lots of books. So we read one book a month as a company, and
that's cool.
And I think that helps us continually get better. I do tell everybody in the organization though, I said, hey, look, there's only one thing in our organization that's not going to change, and that's that we're always changing. Yeah. Right. Because the moment we stop changing is when you stop growing.
Yeah. I know the best people are the ones changing the fastest
all the time.
And that's so hard to do. Yeah. It really is. You get so comfortable, and it's easy to just skate by for a little while and think you're okay. But yeah, you see those strides when you put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I really think that's a key to change too, right? Like getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because if you're not comfortable being uncomfortable running your own business, your own practice, your own DSO, just isn't. It's not for you if you're not, because it's constant discomfort for sure.
Yeah. So talk to me too about, is that one of the biggest challenges that a lot of practice owners, doctors face nowadays? If they're looking to, maybe they have this desire to grow beyond their one practice, right? But they just can't let go. Can't let go of, maybe outsourcing. It could be, take Platinum Recall, for example. How many doctors would, if you were to pitch that idea, were just like, why don't I just get my team to do it? I'm already paying them.
Yeah. And that's what we recommend, actually. Like even when they call us, they're like, hey, we'll be supplemental to this, but we pull their list, and if they've got 1,000 or 1,500 people on this overdue recall list for the last 3 years, we just say, hey, look, we'll schedule 30 a month for you, but you really need to have people in your offices doing. So that's what we do in our offices, right? Like we assign that responsibility, but then, we help supplement that. But as far as embracing that change, I think it's, the discomfort of just change in general, I think scares a lot of people. Dentists are in an interesting position. So the fastest growing segment of group dentistry are like 3 to 5 practices, right? We call that the emerging group of group dentistry. It really levels off after that, because a lot of these dentists, they're working chairside, they're making good money chairside. They grab, 2, 3, 4 offices, and then all of a sudden, in order to manage that, they've got to step away from the chair.
Right.
Well, the economics of the business, unless these are just like killer practices, right? Like you're going to take a pay cut. Yeah. Right. So you really see it level off. So I think it's partially that too, right? Like, they're willing to do some things, but are you willing to, if you really want to grow a DSO and you want to maybe down the road sell for some crazy multiple or whatever, whatever your goals are you willing to sacrifice up front to make that happen?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And most aren't.
It's tough.
Yeah. I know most are just okay.
Yeah.
Okay to be comfortable.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I know.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. But I think from the outside looking in, it's just like, oh man, like all these practices, all this money, all this growth. It's all exciting outside looking in, but you realize you're looking at the tip of the iceberg, and you don't realize like the founders went lots and lots of weeks without paychecks, right?
Absolutely.
Like lots of, you paid everybody before you paid yourself for the first few years. And then you get to a point where you can be comfortable, semi-comfortable, but again, I don't like to sit comfortable too long.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So Vince, tell me about a few of the, I guess you'd say your biggest discoveries, your biggest aha moments, the biggest things you've learned as you've grown from 1, to 6 to 10 to now 20 practices. What are some of the biggest takeaways that you've had? Like if you had to go back and start all over, with one and then scale that back up, what would you do differently to accelerate that process?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think getting the right people on the boat, I think, is everything, right? Like, and it's honestly one of the hardest things for us to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody puts their best foot forward in an interview, whether you're running one practice or 100 practices, right? Like when you sit down with an office manager, can this person actually do what you need, him or her to do? I would say, definitely acting quicker on that. I would say that I haven't regretted getting the wrong people off the boat too early. But I've definitely regretted leaving the wrong people on the boat too long.
Interesting.
So I'd say I would move quicker in that fashion. And I think that alone would accelerate it. I would also say I would push things harder. Looking back, I feel like I pushed it pretty hard, but at the same time, like not realizing how this business compounds, I think they're, pushing as hard as I can for longer, I think would have been one of those takeaways.
So in what regard? Can you give me an example of that?
Yeah, like getting in, it's real easy as you start to get multiple practices to start delegating things to other people because you want the relief.
Yeah.
Like you just want to hand this problem off to somebody else. Right.
Yeah.
And that is, I definitely relate to that. I would have put in the extra effort to be closer to processes for longer, right? And help develop and design those processes.
Just be a little more deliberate on
either that
what
or
those look like.
Yeah, in my situation, right? Because again, I couldn't afford a COO. I still don't have a COO, right? Like I'm still very much involved in the operations and designing those processes. But either bring in a COO that could have done that for me, or put in the extra work to stay close to those processes. I did a lot of handing off and saying, all right, I need you to take care of this thing, figure it out.
Yeah.
And although emotionally that's what I needed at the time, it just didn't go so well most of the time, right? I ended up getting back into it anyway.
Yeah.
And so pushing it harder, again, I don't know that I could have worked more hours or whatever, but maybe what it comes down to is just maybe being a little more focused. I bought a dental lab at one time, and that was a year waste of my life, right? So just probably a better way to say that is, I would have stayed maybe more focused on the opportunity and be closer to those processes for longer.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. That's awesome. That's so cool. Okay. So let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about marketing. Tell me your perspective just on marketing in general. How does that differ from most practices out there? So I know coming from outside the industry. So I'm very curious, very eager to hear what you have to say about marketing in general.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, our approach was, well, let's reactivate what's in the practice, and then let's bring patients in from outside the practice and kind of burn the candle at both ends. But we've been very much internet based. I have definitely felt differences market to market. So as we've moved into Colorado, it's definitely a different marketing environment than Utah has been, for sure. But we've been very much internet based. One thing that we really preach a lot of in our organization is that, for every one patient that we're getting from external marketing, you should be generating one patient internally from internal marketing or internal referrals, right? Which seems like a simple concept, but you go into these offices and you realize, man, there are patients who are happy, who are having great experiences, awesome marketing source, right?
Right.
Walking in and out of the office, and nobody's even asking them.
No invitation,
right? To me, that's the lowest hanging fruit, biggest opportunity. Tough to scale. It can be tough to scale that, right? Because it's like a frontline behavior in the business, versus just busting out pay-per-click campaigns and managing PPC campaigns. That scales pretty well.
Right.
It's just not the most cost effective necessarily. So I think obviously you have to have a component of external marketing, but the big low hanging fruit, most practices, are their patient base, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So much. Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, there's so much less expensive to acquire. They typically stay longer. They trust the dentist more. They trust the practice more. They generally come more on time. I mean, there's so many reasons why we should be going after more referrals. But like you said, it can be difficult to systematize and automate, and because a lot of times people just see it as a very passive behavior. And I don't feel that way. We've talked about that on the show, just how to generate referrals. But a lot of practice people don't see it that way.
Yeah.
They just see it as, well, hopefully, we'll do a good enough job that people refer. But you can actually do things to accelerate that, to instigate that process.
For sure. Yeah. And a lot of people are worried about, and you should be. You need to know your marketing laws and what you can do, and you can't be paying patients for referrals and that kind of thing. And so there's a lot of things that you need to be aware of. But I mean, just start with asking.
I know,
right? Just ask.
Absolutely.
Some patients just wow, that was the best dental visit I've ever had.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, talk about the moment of
prime
reciprocity, right? It's
exactly.
just in that moment, it's just thank you so much. We love patients like you.
Yeah.
You have any other friends or family that you could refer into us, right? I mean.
So
that's all you got to do.
So easy.
Yeah.
They just left the door wide open.
Yeah.
And most of the time, they're just not taking advantage of that.
And I get it. I've been an office manager. I've ran a practice. You're checking patients in, you're checking patients out, you're doing insurance breakdowns, you're trying to present cases. You have 100,000 things going on, and doing one extra thing is tough. But I think that's where you have to put in some type of lead measure that you're going to monitor so that you can drive that result.
Exactly.
Right. You can't just sit back and say, I want new patients.
Right.
Right. You have to assign somebody to ask patients for referrals, track how many patients they ask, and follow up on that. And if you can monitor that, then you can start to think about, okay, we can scale this across multiple locations and produce results.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you guys have very clearly defined KPIs that you're looking at all the time, in order to drive the progress, right? I mean, that's got to be essential today.
Huge.
I'm amazed that there's so many people that don't. But
huge. I mean, for me, I'm presenting on this next week at the ADSO, but that's everything, right? Like you have to have vision to fly the ship. Like you've got to know what's happening where. And so we've invested a lot in a data analytics dashboard. It's kind of an agnostic, off-the-shelf BI tool that
Cool.
we're able to data warehouse and get access to all the information. But I mean, Dental Intel or Jarvis or any of those like platforms out there, you got to know the numbers of the practice to be able to drive it. So, and some things are harder to measure than others, right? Like that behavior of asking patients for a referral, that's not necessarily an input to your practice management software.
Right.
So you have to put in tracking mechanisms to be able to report on that and follow up on it.
But what's cool about even just asking is that you have total control over that. You don't necessarily have control of if they give you a referral or not.
Yeah.
But being able to monitor something like that you have 100% control over is critical.
Yeah. So we track, that a data input that is in the practice management software, which is for every new patient that comes from external marketing, we want one internal referral.
Yeah.
Well, every patient that comes in gets assigned some kind of, source, like where they came from.
Right.
And so if an office isn't at 50%, 1-to-1, then we say, all right,
raises a flag.
Yeah. Are
or
we
some
asking
type of
patients for
notification.
referrals? Right. And pretty quickly you'll find out, oh, well, so-and-so was doing it. No, I thought so-and-so was doing it.
Right.
You can find out nobody was doing it. Right.
Absolutely.
I think getting automated data as much as you can, but you're not going to get that in every process you're trying to drive.
No, absolutely not. So also another question I had for you, Vince, was, do you ever get pushback from, say, the providers, on a specific, item, I guess, regarding marketing, the patient experience or this or that? Do you ever find that you're kind of at odds with what you'd like to do and what maybe the way they view it?
Who, the team members?
Team members, specifically team members, providers.
Yeah, it's funny. People get things in their heads like, whatever it might be, a Groupon patient or a $39 new patient thing, right? You'll have feedback from your team where it's just like, well, these patients don't generate any money. Mm-hmm. That's why the data is so important, right? Because you're going to take that and really, honestly, if I could come back to that question about things that would have changed earlier on in the years, I would have been less reactive to the anecdotes and been earlier on more systematic and more data driven for sure. Because we'll run an analysis, and although there are several patients, whether it's Groupon or discount, window shop or whatever, who don't spend money, you look at the ones who do oftentimes spend more, and they're paying you your full fees. Right. And so, if you're a PPO insurance driven business, like you've already got 10 or 20% more there because you're charging your UCR. So we've done the analysis over and over, and there are certain sources that we've ditched, but, because they don't perform, but largely speaking, you just want to go on the data. And then that's how we go back to the team and we just say, hey, I get what you're saying. Here's the analysis. Here's what we're seeing. Yeah. Let's keep it going for a little while. Yeah. But we have cut. We've cut like a Groupon special and some other things that just haven't performed for us. So
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how difficult is that to have? To cultivate that sense of really candor in your practices, to be able to have those types of discussions where some people are, might feel very passionately that this is the direction you should go, and you might be, facing the other direction. How do you cultivate that as the leader? In a practice like that?
Produce results for your doctors, right? Like if you can produce results for your doctors and you can support your doctors, they're going to trust you. Yeah. Most doctors are most doctors I work with, anyway, they're pretty
reasonable that way.
Well, they're pretty aware that, hey, marketing, like I have no background in that, right? But they'll bring up something their office manager says that maybe this promotion isn't working or that promotion's not working, what have you. But I think that's the biggest thing. Like you have to build trust in your, in your teams, and they have to be able to trust you. I think that's how you can, but I'm definitely not one to sugarcoat things, right? It's just like, I'm not doing you any favors telling you that, let's go ahead and try this idea. If I've done that idea and it doesn't work, it's not going to be helpful. That makes me look bad, right? If I can't produce results for you as a doctor, like that doesn't help me or you, right? Yeah. So
100%.
We've seen that in the past, but just developing that relationship. But again, keeping at your core, at least for us, keeping at our core is to serve others. And most importantly, serve our doctors, right? Mm-hmm. Dentists are first and foremost. If we're not supporting them, we're not doing our job right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. A couple more questions. We'll wrap this up, but tell me, if you were advising someone who has a similar vision? They want to be the next Vince Dilley. They want to own multiple practices, maybe get up to 10 or 20, who knows? What would you advise them to do? I mean, they're facing some stiff competition, like we talked about it earlier. There's a lot of DSOs in the space now. What would your advice be to them?
Yeah, I think there's, to me, there's so much opportunity out there. Again, I've taken a little bit different route in that, we've stayed bootstrapped. We've been real scrappy. We've got struggling offices, done the sweat equity approach, if you will. Yeah. There's a reason people aren't lining up to buy failing practices. They lose money. Like you got to turn them around, right? So, I would say, the biggest thing is understand your vision and understand your weaknesses and bring people in around you who support those weaknesses. Okay. First and foremost, I mean, if you're going to scale up and you're not the best marketer in the world, like get somebody who knows marketing. Yeah. Right? Get them around you. If you're, if you're going to be, the super GP who's in a, 200, 300 hours a year in clinical, CE, right? Because you're really focused on the clinical side. Like you got to bring in somebody who knows the business, right? Who can run the business as the time. So surrounding yourself with great people, it's all about people, right? Like surrounding yourself with great people. Don't waste time working with people who don't value you, don't want to work with you. Like move on. There's a lot of people out there who you're gonna connect with. So biggest thing is get the people right,
which is a big deal.
Yeah,
it's
not
hard,
easy,
right? I mean, it's not easy. Yeah. Any tips on that, right? Before we end this, because that is such a hot topic, right? I mean, it's so deep, and it's a hard one for people to grasp. I mean, I think deep down, a lot of us can recognize that this person might not be the right fit, but just getting I don't know if it's the gumption to stand up to it and say, hey, it's not a good fit, and recognizing that that's best for both parties involved. Yeah. I mean, what would be your advice to someone in that situation that just isn't taking that, don't feel like they're great at doing that, cutting ties when they know they need to cut ties? Yeah,
that's a tough one for me. Like I said, I've left the wrong people on the boat like too long more often because
you hope
it's the heartstrings. And it's like, and I am an optimist, right? Like I'm the visionary. I'm the one looking at the possibilities, not necessarily, the bad aspects of it. That's tough, especially when you work closely with people. As a dentist, you're real close to your assistants and your hygienists and your team, and to cut those people where everything about them and their families, like it's not easy. I think that's why I say you have to get your vision right, because if you'll bring people on who want to accomplish your mission with you, then it makes those conversations easier, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like, hey, I love you, I want the best for you. Here's what we're out to do. If you want to be on the boat, like jump on the boat. We want you here, right? But if we can't achieve this, like that's not good for you. That's not good for me. And we should find something that we can both be more successful in.
Yeah, absolutely, awesome. Okay, well, where do you go from here? Where's Platinum Dental go?
Gosh, man, we're gonna keep doing what we're doing. I think for a little while. We've entered a new kind of this new area in terms of profitability and scale to where we have access to larger debt capital. So for us, we're excited about the next few years and being able to not have to go in there and negotiate a seller finance deal, right? Like, and just like, because you're so limited on what you can buy, and then and actually tapping into good growth capital that allows us strong and consistent growth into the future. So goal is by the end of this year, be at a $45 million run rate, 30 plus practices, and that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah, so you're well on your way.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, one day at a time. Right. It's, but no, it's going really well. And again, credit to all of our people, because that's what it's about. Like we've just got amazing people help driving this.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. Well, thanks again, man.
Thanks, Mark.
Taking the time. This has been awesome.
Appreciate it, buddy. Yeah. Good to know you.
So last question would be, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that if they can? Yeah. Or just go to Platinum Dental.
Yeah.
Whatever you'd recommend.
Yeah. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, Vince Dilley, or you can send me an email at vince@platinumdentalservices.com. If you're interested in recall, you can certainly look up Platinum Recall. But I do I've had some really good mentors in the industry who have been very open to me and have shared all their secrets, all their failures, all their successes. And I really try to do that. So if you want to ping me with a question, happy to help you however I can, because trying to pay it forward from some great mentors I've had.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's what it's all about, my man. Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks again for coming on the show.
All right, buddy. Thanks.
Yep.
Did you enjoy this episode of the Dental Marketing Secrets Podcast? Head on over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. And for more proven marketing strategies to grow your practice, visit practicerocket.net.